good day, everyone, and welcome back to the Sustainable Agriculture Workshop. And today we are honored to have Ms. Lauren Lovejoy from the Regenerative Farmers of America. And man, the Instagram is go check it out if you haven't checked it out. Trust me, the Instagram is really, really popping. So welcome, Lauren. How are you today?
Thank you so much. So happy to be here and share about this amazing movement.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So the first question I would ask you, Lauren, is like if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, like what made you get into regenerative farming?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in rural Virginia. My family had lots of land that they rented to a conventional farmer, but we didn't farm. So I grew up in the country, loving nature and all that good stuff, but didn't know a dang thing about animals. Went off to college, lived in the big city, and I ended up getting really sick in my 20s and ended up having to move back with my parents for medical reasons. So by chance, I ended up back at my family home looking at this land, and I'm looking back out, and it's almost like the same cows that were there when I was 5 years old, right? And they're degrading the land, and it's looking worse and worse every year. And so part of me just kept looking at the same thing every day. And then in my anxiety about climate change, I started researching, well, what can we do? We live near the Appalachian Trail. We have tons of trees. That's not the total solution, right? And so it led me to digging deeper, and I found regenerative agriculture, and it just made sense to me. I had watched conventional agriculture fail for years. Regenerative provided so many solutions, and it wasn't hard. It was something I could literally start doing because I had access to it. So after a fight with the family of taking land out of conventional and convincing them that me, who has no idea anything about agriculture, could do this, my family finally accepted, and we started regeneratively farming our farm, and we're just in the process of watching it come back and watching life return to the farm. It's been really wonderful.
Oh, that's good. So you had a great experience from being from having a difficult situation and turn it into a positive situation.
Absolutely. I think every regenerative farmer will say it was never an easy transition based on society, but we're hoping to start breaking down some of those barriers.
Right. Because I mean, it takes a whole lot to convince the conventional farmers to switch their system into regenerative ag, and it's like they're so accustomed doing this for 50 years.
Nobody wants extra work, right? Why would I move my animals when I could just sit them out there? That just doesn't make any sense. But we're finding that if somebody will stick with it, the benefits will show up. So it's just, can you get them in and try it for a little while? And we're finding after that it's not hard to convince anybody.
Right. So let me ask you. So what kind of difficulties you face by trying to establish that farm?
So many, of course, with everything, farming's expensive, right? So when we started, the conventional farmer, he picked up his cows and he went home, and we were left with a conventional system that doesn't lend itself to holistic grazing and movement of animals. So we had to come in and put new infrastructure and ways to make sure that animals get water if they're in a different part, because the animals can't walk back and forth with the grazing. So it was a lot of just infrastructure and upfront costs that just not everybody has the ability to just start a farm because it's so expensive. Right. And then when we're starting the farm, it's not the next day you see benefits, right? It's the next 6 months and it's the next year. So it takes time to prove to the people who might be funding you or allowing you on their land or all these good times to see the benefit and really understand what it is. And because of soil health, well, so we need to show tests and measure and qualify all those things. So just some of those barriers that you can't immediately feel them is really hard when you're either convincing for funding or trying to get different support externally.
Yeah, because everybody wants, we change the system today, we expect rapid results tomorrow,
Agriculture, right? It's based on a capitalist system, and we can't measure natural health. That's not part of the capitalist system. So it's starting to find a place where those inputs can be measured and part of the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I always believe that I always blame, I'm not against Amazon, but I always blame Amazon, with the 2-day shipping and they get it right away. So a lot of people expect the same thing when you try to, change agriculture. Everything must change within 24 hours or a week. It doesn't.
Exactly.
It takes years sometimes to establish a regenerative system.
Well, and down to our chickens, right? We want to grow out our chickens in 90 days. Well, why can't we discuss heritage breed chickens that take over twice as long to grow out? But what about quality? What about biodiversity? What about resilience? The conversation is through and through. We want quick results. Yeah. That's not nature.
Yeah, and that's why I think, for example, this new thing, well, it's not new, but it's come to the limelight, free range chickens. Yeah. A lot of companies don't want to do that because it takes longer. They have to feed the chickens longer and all that costs them money. But if you have them in battery cages, 90 days flat.
Yeah.
From
Crazy.
chick to mature chicken,
Yeah.
they grow. And I think it's very important that, we consider free range. And I think that's why the EU Union actually banned a lot of companies from doing the battery cage method.
Yes,
So
I
that's,
agree. Well, and it's a whole difference in quality, right? Like,
yes,
I don't know if you follow some accounts, but they show you what a conventional chicken raised and what a non-conventional chicken is. You can see it in the way their muscles grow and how the chicken looks like. So we
right.
can prove that these things are definitely different, but how do we make money in agriculture with something that already doesn't have any margins? And how do we justify those things?
Right, right.
Uh,
And I mean, I wish people, take a look. I show my class a video of how chickens are actually, bred from chick to meat, and they were stunned at what actually.
right.
So that's interesting. We must always educate people about that. So let me ask you. So tell us a little bit about Regenerative Farmers of America, and like what you guys do. I'll definitely put up your Instagram handle and stuff like that. But like, what does your organization basically focus on?
Yeah. So, when I jumped into agriculture, like, who do I follow? Like, there was a handful of really prominent farmers that were talking about what they're doing, and you follow them and you try to figure out what you're doing. But I also know there's like 10 billion iterations of what they do. They're telling you that they don't have the perfect solution. They're telling you this is what they're doing, but they're learning, and we're all learning because this is so new. So I was like, well, look at all these other amazing people that are doing it. And I just wanted, like, from a fangirl point of view, is I just thought all these other people were so amazing, and I figured other people would be interested in it too. So I just wanted to share, like, look what this farmer in the middle of nowhere has been able to accomplish. Look at this regenerative farmer in like the high desert Arizona is growing wheat where it doesn't rain like at all, less than an inch in a year. And there's so many no-name farmers that are really doing these just truly amazing things. And I just wanted to elevate all of them because they're struggling, right, against agriculture. They're struggling against all these norms, and it's just so important to me that we elevate these people that are fighting all of these different systems at so many different layers and still finding a way to overcome. Like, to me, that's so much more exciting than any celebrity or anything that's going on in the rest of the world. And so we're just kind of working with that, taking the resources from the community, building up what we can, and sharing that information. How are you guys making it? What system is working for you? What is not working for you? And just trying to keep people who are regeneratively farming able to keep regenerative farming.
Yeah, because it's really hard to get like real solid educational materials about regenerative farming. But there's a lot of stuff out there. Some people just post stuff. Some of it is wrong. Some of it is right.
Yep. Or you don't want to take a course that's $500 to $1,000 if you're already trying to build infrastructure. No shame to those people who are trying to teach it. I'm so glad they are. Just we're working on accessibility. Yeah. If you only have YouTube, how can you get started?
Right, exactly. And I still use YouTube, if I'm unsure about something. So I always use YouTube for that, especially in class too. So what I do is I take a lot of videos from YouTube about farming in Denmark, so just to give the kids a little appreciation of what farming is. It's not just in the hot sun planting. There's But so let me ask you something. Now, this is a little technical question. So, from your experience looking at all the different types of methods and stuff, have you seen a change in government involvement within agriculture in the U.S.?
I'm not seeing a lot of change immediately. I am working with organizations who are doing advocacy work for the next farm bill to do major reform change. But kind of when you go to your grants now, they say that they want to support regenerative agriculture, but they also don't fund a third of the things that you need for it, right? So the conversation is definitely changing. We're starting to engage in those things, but it's very farmer driven, right? Like, it's we, the farmers, and we, the consumers, are trying to teach, other people that these should be prioritized. So the conversation's coming. It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, because I was talking to a colleague yesterday about that same thing, and we were of the opinion that because climate change is becoming a serious issue now, within recent times, that agriculture could actually be used as a way to kind of slow down climate change. But maybe people don't understand that. Maybe we don't understand the process of like carbon sequestration and stuff like that. So we were actually having a good conversation about that yesterday, and it's agriculture. They need to have, my opinion. I can be biased, but in my opinion, I think we need to have more funding available, especially for regenerative agriculture, because there's so much research that could go into that. A lot of funding goes into the poultry industry, the swine industry, more animal stuff, but like crops and stuff like that, we need to get more funding, and especially under different climatic conditions too. Because we all have to eat. That's the important thing.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
I feel like there's almost a dichotomy right now. Almost the people who are trying to address climate change are in a different camp than the people of agriculture, just because I feel like we haven't proven that the soil is the solution yet. Kind of the people who are there, we know it is, and we know we can prove it. It just kind of hasn't hit that higher level yet that we can prove large scale that this is working. So I'm really interested in the carbon credits and the mass transitions, like Indigo Ag and all these big, they're trying to switch soybean and corn, which is obviously mass over. And if they can start proving it and they can start giving carbon credits, I do think it will help merge those worlds. And then I think we'll see the funding really start rolling downhill. I think there's about to be a large influx of cash into that world. But it almost doesn't translate down to the real farmer who's doing it, right? Because then we switch to large scale agriculture versus backyard farming, and then that's a whole different conversation, right?
That's a different conversation. But as you mentioned, large scale farming or conventional farming, what would you say to people who believe many conventional farming practices have a negative impact on the environment?
Well, wouldn't we say they're right in a certain capacity? It's not all agriculture and not all conventional is bad, but we all know feedlots. Let's not argue, feedlots are pretty bad. Besides their ability to feed lots and lots of people, they're very negative to the environment. So conventional agriculture has fed the world. How can we let it feed the world and heal the world at the same time? And I think there's an easy way to merge those conversations rather than to demonize people who are producing food for you. I think it needs to be a transition rather than a opposition kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I would say too, because at the end of the day, back in the days, I would say the early 90s and stuff like that, where a lot of farmers used to use pesticides and herbicides and stuff like that. Yeah. Some of them are paying for it right now. That kind of destroyed the environment a little bit. And then the concept of sustainable ag and regenerative ag, even organic farming came about. But the question about it is that, my opinion is, why should, let's say you have a bag of apples, why should organic apples be at a higher price than normal apples? When you're trying to grow it in a more natural, the taste is different, sometimes the color is different, even the size is different. So that's something to really think about, especially with consumers. So with sustainable agriculture, do you think that are you under any pressure from consumers to move in that direction?
I actually think it's the total opposite. I think that it's the farmer's responsibility at this point to educate consumers on why an apple is different. So of course, in regenerative ag, we're holding two apples and we're saying the nutrient quality of a conventional apple and the nutrient quality of a regenerative apple is completely different. The conventional is less nutrient dense. So we're here it's different because of the nutrition. It's different because of its impact. And so it's actually that we're having to tell customers, because customers just buy, right? We need food, we go to the grocery store, we don't care. But all these different things that we can add and all the benefits, it's the burden is on the farmer to convince the consumer. So yes, there might be a handful of really advocate consumers out there, but we're finding that it's all based on these people who are so passionate to farm that they just want to share this with everybody else.
That's very true, because there are a lot of techniques that some farmers use that they don't really like to share with other farmers, I guess, because of technology rights or whatever they call it. But I always believe in the wealth is in the information. You must always share information, especially if you better the bigger cause. That's something in research, especially in the pharmaceutical companies. They find a cure they would not share with other companies.
Yeah, well, and isn't that why regenerative ag is amazing, though? Because the end solution is we just want more people doing it. We don't want to be the only person doing it, or else it's not going to work out, because we're not going to sequester carbon. We're not going to fight climate change. We all want more people doing regenerative ag. And I think that's why this movement's really amazing, because everyone is sharing that information. We're not holding the secrets, we're telling everybody.
Right, exactly. We should be, because the future of the planet is what at stake.
It's kind of important, right?
Especially for our children and our children's children.
Yep.
So tell me, besides organizations, are you guys doing any projects or anything, any other projects you guys involved with?
We're involved in a lot of things, and we're kind of spread out everywhere because we survey farmers and we ask what's going wrong, like what is stopping you, what is limiting you, because the biggest thing is if you're farming now, I want you to keep farming. I don't want you to end up going bankrupt or whatever. So like I said, we're working on an advocacy platform with Kiss the Ground on the Farm Bill, which there'll be a lot of information about Regenerate America coming out in the next couple months, that we're trying to say, USDA Farm Bill, all these people, please give funding for all these regenerative practices, help with converting, all that good stuff. We're also working on how do we empower the individual backyard farmers to grow their practices. They're already experienced. They already know how to raise food regeneratively. How can we empower them? And then Fearless Farmers is another group we really love. They're working on educating children and adults. So they're trying to help standardize how we teach regenerative ag. And not, we're doing some hybrid of teachers, but it's also like on farm. Like, how can you get your boots on the farm and see why this is different? Not just some infographic on the internet telling you why your chicken is different from the other chicken. Get out there and see, because it's really in the touching and the feeling of the environment. Regenerative farms, you can almost just feel how different they are and feel how alive they are. And we want to get more people out there.
Yeah, that's what I love the work that these organizations and yourself is doing, because like I said, I use some of your content to teach my classes. So,
well, like I said, everybody's doing so much amazing stuff. I'm just like, okay, how can I help you? How can we get the word out and really spread it? That's what we're trying to do.
So let me ask you a question. Let's talk about permaculture, right? So, do you think that somebody who's just going into farming should start off with permaculture first and then expand, or should they just solely jump into sustainable ag?
Well, it's all context, right? So that's the cheat of permaculture. It's all about your context. If you have a 1 acre in your backyard, start a food forest and a market garden. Like, that's what you can do. If you have 100 acres at your disposal, start, rotationally grazing. It just kind of depends on where you have. But my biggest recommendation I always make to everybody is go to the farm before you buy land and go crazy. Like, go live there and just make sure that this is, the 20-year commitment that you're ready to make with the rest of your life. Because it's so easy to see those beautiful pictures and decide that, that's what I'm going to be forever. It's a whole nother thing when you're in the mud, chasing pigs and all that other good stuff, So I always say, go experience farms. We have the map on the website. You can find regenerative farms almost anywhere near you. You can find training places. Like, just go experience it before you make a big commitment.
Yeah, that's so very true, because people tend to jump into something and then halfway through they want to stop, right?
Well, that again, the impulse and the beautiful picture. I want to be there. Well, you could also just go rent an Airbnb that's on any of these farms and experience it for the day, and then realize how much work it is. And because as much as we need farmers, we absolutely need people who are really committed to supporting those farmers as well. So that's important too.
So you mentioned like a lot of people committed. So like the last question I have for you is like, what would you tell a young person, like a young student who wants to go into the career of regenerative agriculture or even extension? What advice would you give that student?
So I always say, like, think about you, who you are, what is your best contributing to the movement. So yes, I am a farmer at the backbone and I do farm myself, but because I'm in marketing and I'm in data analytics, my thought is, how can I spread this movement? So it may not necessarily be you need to be a farmer and out there, boots on the ground. What can you do to help share this movement? Can you be in value add in marketing and helping those farmers sell those products better? It's a business, right? And there's so many layers at every single part of it. People need loans. People need workers in the USDA. Like, there's so many tiers about this thing. So what individual gift do you have, and how can you apply it to the movement and really empower people to keep doing it?
Good. Well, Lauren, thank you very much for spending this time with us this afternoon, giving us your insight and Regenerative Farmers of America's insight as well. Is there anything you want to say before we go, or about your organization?
Nope. I was about to say, just everybody get out there, go experience it, learn it, and I think you'll be converted.
All right, good, cool. Well, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate it.
No problem. Bye-bye.